Alright, well, this is my second time filming this section because I just watched the video for this one I just did, and what I realized after I did it was that the camera was too far down, so you couldn't see like half of the freaking slide. It's ridiculous. I'm wasting moments of my life. Okay, anyway, what I want you to do at the beginning of this presentation is to close your eyes. Close them. Keep them closed. And I want you to imagine, to the best of your ability, I want you to imagine Mr. Pooler's favorite color. What is it? What do you see in your heart of hearts? What do you see? If you said green, you're correct. Well done. Good job. That is my favorite color. Well done. If you said anything other than green, you're evil. I'm just kidding. Alright, so 6.4, how can we slow human population growth? Let's look at this. Let's discuss it. Let's chew on it. Ready? Well, my clicker is messed up. Give me a second. Technical difficulties. Alright, how can you slow it? What can we do? Boom. We're going to start by talking about the demographic transition, which is the movement of a nation from high population growth to low population growth as it develops economically. Okay, so one thing you might notice on here is that there's three things going on. We've got our birth rates in green, our death rates in purplish magenta. I don't know my colors real well, obviously. And then behind this, you've got the population growth. And if you look, this looks a lot like those J-shaped and S-shaped curves that we were looking at last chapter. And that's exactly what it is. So here's the beginning part, the slow growth. The what type of growth right here? Say it a little louder, can you hear you? Exponential, good. Exponential growth right here. And then right here we get to, what is that called again, where it starts to level off? It's called the, what was that? Alex, what? Yes, that's the carrying capacity. Very good. Well done, Alex. Good job, good job. So, this transition is broken up into 4 stages. Stage 1, pre-industrial. So this is that whole time frame prior to our population explosion that we had in the, started to really turn up there in the, it's funny. Population got turned up in the 1800s, boy. Let me tell you, that's what population growth led to. So high birth rates and high death rates, they're almost equal, which is why our population growth is negligible, right? Not even really there. Not even there. And it's really from high infant mortality rates. So the infant mortality rate, again, is how many children die within that first year for every 100 births. And when birth is so difficult for humans because of us being bipeds and therefore babies having to be squashed through a bone birth canal, it's very tough and difficult for both the females and the baby. You know, that happens. That happens. So practically no country today, okay, and that's good because this isn't, you know, all that death is not a fun thing, but the impact of stage 2 is also not a fun thing. Stage 2, transitional, high birth rates, but low death rates. All right, so let's do this because there's some things I want to say. And since I just said them literally 15 minutes ago when I recorded it the first time, my brain's spinning. So, declining death rates, rising growth rates, so you can see the rise in growth right here, because death is no longer keeping up with birth, so the population increases. And these come from improvements in sanitation and medicine. However, let's discuss this for a second, because a lot of these countries, they're mostly developing, Africa, Afghanistan, some of Asia, okay? Parts of Asia that are not, you know, the wealthy parts of China, all right? You remember, even though China's got 1.4 billion people, the majority of them are living in rural areas and are very poor, or the slums of India, the other ginormously large population in the country. So, what happens is these people lack the wealth needed to make these improvements, to have running water, sewer systems, medicine and doctors, right? And the people who do become doctors, a lot of them, what happens is they go out to another country, people who are privileged enough to get an education, a higher education, become doctors and scientists, go to a country, get that education, and then most of them don't leave and come back to the country of their origin. So they're not bringing that knowledge back to the area to help spur these innovations and these improvements. And that has a big impact. But you can't blame them either, right? The people who aren't coming back, I mean, it's a sticky situation. What do you do? But in addition to that, a lot of them still live in agrarian lifestyle, so they continue to have lots of kids, right? Because they need them to work the farm, gather wood, fetch water. They also need them because they've got no healthcare system. So who's going to take care of you when you're old? Your children will. So you have to have a lot of children. Also, there's a lot of cultural components to it, right? A lot of these developing countries have paternal societies where the men, they have a better standing, I guess, if they have multiple wives, lots of children. I was just listening to a report on NPR the other day where there's this guy who had 4 wives, currently had some in the past, 24 children, and that has a huge impact. And we'll talk more about that in a second. Okay, so demographic trap. So, it's the population path of most less developed countries. That's what LDC stands for. So they're trapped in stage 2, right, of this demographic transition. So before 1970, the less developed countries seemed poised to make this transition from stage 2 to 3, thanks to economic growth. And this growth came a lot from investment and donations to third world countries from developed countries. Countries like the US, Germany, France, Britain, right? So what was happening? Part of it had to do with people in developed countries wanting to be able to buy a lot of crap at really cheap prices. So we sent that manufacturing to other countries. A lot of it also had to deal with the fact that we did see a lot of people starving and being killed by cholera and dysentery and stupid things that are easily cured. So we sent over a lot of medicine and aid. So they were getting ready to make that transition, okay? But some things happened. There was a recession in the 80s. Investment started to stagnate. Donations started to stagnate. The growth, because it never made that transition, so close, but didn't make it. So continued, and since the economic increase did not keep up, economics went down, populations went back up, and they got stuck. So they had the high birth rates, low death rates, explosive population growth, and the standard of living went down in a lot of these areas. Now, something else that's going on is, think about the Ebola outbreak that's taking place right now. Sierra Leone just had a 3-day quarantine where they didn't want anyone leaving their house. Don't go to work, don't go anywhere. So think about how this is affecting the economies. These are already third world countries that are being impacted. They already lack economic gain. This is just driving even further. So not only do they need massive influx of people and dollars right now to get over this outbreak, they're going to need it for a decade after to dig themselves out of this crunch that came from people not being able to go to work because they're caring for all these dead and dying people and being quarantined in their homes. So this Ebola outbreak is really going to take a toll on these third world countries, not just in the number of lives, but in the standard of living of the people left. Stage 3, industrial. So now we've got declining birth rates, right? So low death rates, low infant mortality. If you want 5 kids, you don't have to have a dozen, because if you have 5, most likely all 5 are going to make it to reproductive adulthood. That's awesome. Economic change is urbanization. Urbanization, that is the having less kids because of the opportunity cost, right? It costs a ton of money to have the children. Your wife probably has a job and wants a career, so she's going to have less kids. That is all part of that process. And that's what needs to happen for a country to be in stage 3. It's a very important proponent of it. Because as you can see, with these declining birth rates, you're starting to get this movement, this arching the other way, the other way towards this carrying capacity. Carrying capacity. So stage 4, post-industrial. Low birth rates, low death rates, and you can see 2 places on this graph, birth and death rates are the same. Pre-industrial, post-industrial. And at those 2 points, population growth is 0. Excuse me. Very important to understand, to realize. Okay? Let me see. Sometimes we have negative growth. Think back to Germany with a total fertility rate of 1.4. They're in a declining population right now, declining pyramid, and it could go back up. Remember, if you remember back to chapter 5, when we first introduced these population growth curves for the K-selected species, they usually don't tend to just hit that carrying capacity and stay stagnant. They oscillate up and down. So that's what we see in stage 4. And we see that happening now in the United States of America. Again, our total fertility rate is 1.9. It was 2.1 in 2008. So we're probably going to oscillate around that carrying capacity and that total fertility rate. So slowing population growth, family planning. Family planning is of the utmost importance. That's what I was getting at when I was talking about the story I heard in NPR, where that guy had 24 kids. So there's these groups that are going around, and they get the men, because again, these are very paternal societies. They get them together and they talk to them. They get them on board. They say, look, you can't have 24 kids. If everybody in India had 24 kids, there would be no world left, right? We would consume everything. So, they have to learn that maybe these countries who are showing up with contraceptives are not trying to sterilize them, but just give them the opportunity to still have sex and not have a baby. And I know it sounds kind of weird to say, but what you have to understand is that sex is a biological drive. Think about how hard it is to have a kid and what happens to your bodies, ladies, right? If you aren't biologically driven to have that, that drive to want to have kids and therefore have sex to have that child, you probably wouldn't willingly do to your body what is going to happen when you have a kid, okay? So we have to educate them and we have to provide them with the contraceptives, the contraception that they need so that these drives can be met without having all of these kids. Because people are going to have sex, but don't do it till you're married. Even in third world countries, they're still engaged in sexual activity, which is why 42% of all pregnancies in these countries are unplanned. And they say unplanned because they're not using contraception. So when she gets pregnant, she goes, well, I wasn't really trying, I was just having sex and now I'm pregnant. And 26% end in abortion. So if we could provide them with the contraception, then we could reduce these unplanned pregnancies and eradicate those abortions. Worldwide, millions of couples want access to birth control, but they lack it for a variety of reasons. For culture, for religious reasons, for just not having it because it's a really poor area. Okay? What else? Maybe it's in the next slide. It is. So the fundamental thing to take away from this part for how to reduce population growth, the most important thing is empowering women. Get them educated. Give them a job and a career. And you're going to lower birth rates. Okay? Dramatically lower birth rates. Here's the problem though. Globally, right now, 900 million young girls who are eligible as far as age and should be going to elementary school are not. Almost 1 billion young girls because of money, culture, being in a paternal society where they don't value them and they feel like they should be out fetching water and firewood. So that is going to hurt the world, the entire world in the future, because they should be getting an education. They should have access to these opportunities, and they don't. And that's going to really hurt us all. So, at the end of the day, empower women. You know what I mean? See, Mr. Pooler is not a sexist. Empower women. Got it?